Hey friends, Mr. Spitzer here. Today I wanted to introduce you to the Writing Workshop Fantasy Unit Notebook. It's a digital notebook. I wanted to show you how we are going to use it throughout the unit and make you familiar with it so you can use it effectively going forward. So I am in my Google Classroom and I'm clicking on Spitzer ELA Remote Learning at Wagner. I am going to click on the Classwork tab, and today is Monday, 5/4, and it's Fantasy Writing Day 1. The instructions say, please click on the digital notebook to make a copy for yourself. Then, watch the video tutorial to see how to use the digital notebook. We will be using this notebook for the next 3 weeks. If you are struggling to understand how to use the digital notebook after watching this video, please join my office hours. Please mark assignment as done when you have completed lesson 1 of the notebook. Here is a link to my office hours from 10 to 11 every day, and I posted the link because it was suggested that every day I post a link. During office hours, you do not need to stay for the whole time, but if you want to stop in to say hi or to ask a question, I welcome everyone to do that. So this link here, it says Spitzer Remote Learning Digital Notebook. When you click on it, it's going to make a copy for yourself. So we'll open this up into Google Docs, and this is the notebook you will be using for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to read the first 2 pages of this notebook to you to show you how to use this, and then I'm going to explain lesson 1 of our fantasy writing unit. So here it says how to use our Writing Remote Learning Digital Notebook. Step 1, add your name, date, and section every day, making sure the heading is clear. For example, notice only 3 things were added to the heading. So here you can see I have my name, Mr. Spitzer, the date. I started this on May 1st, 2020, Wagner Middle School, which is already going to be there for you, and the section, most of you are in 612 or 714. It says Rule 1, do not change the font or font size. So when you click on anywhere in this notebook, you'll be able to type, but I don't want people changing the font or font size. And Rule 2, it says please do not use any other color than black unless instructed to do so. So here we have the table of contents. It says each day is divided by a start here and end here. That will show you what you're expected to do on that day of the lesson. It says below each lesson listed, you will notice. Here it says lesson 1. If you click on the link, it will take you to the bookmark lesson for the day in your writing notebook, so you don't have to search the entire document. What I mean by that is if you see our table of contents here, when you click on lesson 1 and click on the bookmark, it brings you all the way to lesson 1. That way you don't have to scroll up and down through the notebook. The next thing that I want to talk about is the expectations daily. So it says to follow step 1 and rule 1 and 2 every day. Step 1 says that for each lesson, you're writing your name, the date, and the section that you're in. And then rule 1 and 2 say that you do not change the font size, the font, or the color of the font. It says here that you're not allowed to go ahead to the next day's lesson. You must complete all the work between start here and end here for that day. Now, lessons I've decided are going to go over the course of 2 days. So lesson 1 will last day 1 and 2, and that's when I check them. So for people that struggle or need a little extra time, this will help you. All the work should be completed in your Writing Remote Learning Digital Notebook. So all the work that you do is going to be right in this document that you made a copy of. It says make sure you are reading the directions, completing the do now, and watching the lesson videos. And if you're watching this video right now, you're already doing one of those things. Whenever you see this symbol, it's like a little hand with a finger pointing, it indicates that you must complete and start writing. You're going to notice the symbol a lot, and this is to help you see where you're supposed to be typing your answers. So for day 1, it says start here. This is where we're starting our lesson, and we have our table of contents. So in our table of contents, it's what is actually in this writing notebook. So you can see all of the lessons for the whole unit here. It looks a little overwhelming, but again, remember, we're taking this day by day. So lesson 1 says collecting the ideas for our fantasy lesson. So you can either click this lesson here and it will bring you to that lesson, or you can scroll down. So if you scroll down or you click that bookmark, it's going to bring to you lesson 1. And this is what you're actually going to be doing for the day. Again, if we're following step 1 of our directions, we need to make sure to type our name, the date, and the section that we're in. So here is where I would type Mr. Spitzer, the date, and I said it was 5/4/2020. And the section that I'm in, I teach 611, 612, and 714. So you're going to make sure that you type in your answers here. I can see another hand pointing here, so I know that I need to answer this question. And the do now says, please answer the question below. What do you wish was real from your favorite fantasy books and movies? So you can take a pause, take a second, and I want you to think about what do you wish was real from your favorite fantasy books and movies. So if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, a Harry Potter fan, maybe Twilight, what do you wish was real? And I want you to type your answer here in a complete sentence. All right, so lesson 1, it says collecting ideas for our fantasy lesson. This lesson's focus is how to brainstorm ideas for what we actually want to write about. And our teaching point says that writers collect ideas for their fantasy stories by examining carefully their own lives or by finding ideas for possible questions. So if I ask you to write a fantasy story and write your own fantasy story, I know a lot of people would struggle on how to come up with an idea and what to write about. Fantasy is a hard genre to write because anything can happen and anything is possible within your story. So our organizer today is going to show 2 strategies about how to brainstorm ideas for your fantasy writing project. So strategy 1 is to use a writer's notebook. So in this example, we have here that it says, I wrote a list in my writer's notebook of things that I like to do. So that's an example of someone just making a daily entry. It says they wrote down a list of things they like to do. Now, we want to use the sentence starter, what if, to change that entry into a fantasy idea. And our example says, what if all my favorite toys, games, and people started disappearing gradually for no apparent reason? And you can see how this could be turned into a fantasy story, almost like I can see this being a Goosebumps story maybe for our Goosebumps fans out there. So what you're going to do here, you can see there are 3 boxes for notebook entries and then 3 boxes for fantasy ideas. I want you to write just something you're doing every day and then use the sentence starter, what if, to change that into a fantasy idea or what you could possibly write about in your fantasy story. So maybe one day you wrote that you looked outside with birds' eggs. And what I want you to do then, it says, what if those birds' eggs were, and change it to a fantasy idea. So my thinking says, like, what if those birds' eggs were actually dinosaur eggs? And that would make a very interesting fantasy story. After you complete this, you're going to take a look at strategy 2, which is creating a quest. A quest is like a journey where you set out to accomplish something. So here, my idea for a quest, it says use the sentence starters to make an outline for a fantasy story. So over here we have sentence starters. These will help you craft your basic outline of a story. And it says here that someone had to blank because blank, but then blank, so, and then you'll type it in, however, and then eventually this happens. So this is a way to brainstorm and kind of outline a potential quest or journey if that's how you want to write your fantasy story. And then the last thing for today, the directions say that you're going to pick one of the ideas that you just brainstormed. So either an idea from strategy 1 or an idea from this strategy 2. And you are going to write a 5-sentence blurb for that story in the entry box below. Make it sound like the back of a book. So, give me roughly 5 complete sentences that explains what might happen in your book without giving all the details. After you type that in here, as you scroll down, you see that it says end here, and that is the end of lesson 1. I'm going to scroll back up just to show you. So this is all you're completing. If you click back on lesson 1, the bookmark, you're completing this whole 2 pages, it looks like, for the day. When you finish your fantasy writing entry and you come to the end here, you are done. You don't have to do anything else. And please don't go on to lesson 2 until the following day. When you are done, one thing to make sure that you're doing that people still forget to do is when you go back into your assignment, you need to mark as done, which if I clicked on the view assignment, now I am not a student, so I can't see this box, but if you clicked on view assignment, over here on the right hand side would have a button that says mark as done, and this shows me that you've completed the daily assignment and that it's ready to grade. If you have any questions about day 1 of our fantasy writing unit, or if this seems overwhelming and complicated and you just want to talk about it with me, please use the link here to join me in my office hours. And I hope to talk to you and see you guys soon. Happy Monday.